this question, we want to look at how do we make the balance sheet of central bank and commercial bank. So things to keep in the back of your mind for this problem before we actually proceed with the problem. So here we need to keep in mind, what do we mean by a balance sheet? So now, the idea is that balance sheet of a bank, or it could be of a firm or individual, shows its assets and liabilities at a point in time. So the point of a balance sheet of not just a bank, but of any firm or individual is that it shows its assets and liabilities at a point in time. So it's not over a period of time, it's for a particular point in time. So what do we mean by assets and liabilities here? So assets in this context would be what the bank owns. So assets are what you owns and what is owed to the bank by others. So what others owe to you. Now, when we're constructing the balance sheet for banks and commercial, central bank and commercial banks in this case, so what we do is we list the values of different assets on the left hand side. So we write our assets value on the left hand side and our liabilities on the right hand side when making the balance sheet. But what are liabilities? Liabilities are what the bank owes to others, right? The debts or obligations. What the bank owes to others. And we list the value or different liabilities on the right hand side when we open the balance sheet. We list the values of different liabilities on right hand side. Now, before we actually proceed with the question, there's something that we do need to note, which is that the balance sheet must always balance, which means the left hand side should be equal to the right hand side. Sheet must always balance. Your left hand side total should be equal to your right hand side total. So let's like write left hand side total is equal to the right hand side total. So now that we have covered the basics, now we can see how we go ahead with this question. So if we now proceed with the actual question, so first let's make the balance sheet for the central bank. So like we said, we essentially want to list its assets and liabilities at a point in time, and we have the assets on the left hand side and we have the liabilities on the right hand side. Now, what are the assets and what are the liabilities for a central bank? Now, the liabilities of the central bank are the central bank money, high-powered money or monetary base it issues. This is the liability of the central bank. So it's a central bank money, monetary base or high-powered money. And we know this includes reserves. And we know this includes currency. Now, reserves are given, so we're not given the reserves, but we're given the currency is 1000. So let's just write first currency 1000. We're not given reserves, but we can actually very easily find reserves is also 1000. And how do we do that? We know reserves are that part of deposits that are not lent out, right? So they are that part deposits that are not lent out. So they're equal to reserve deposit ratio times the deposits, where the reserve deposit ratio tells us what fraction of deposits are kept as reserves. So we're told 25% of deposits are kept as reserves. So we can find this as 1000 by multiplying 0.25 with 4000. So this was the liabilities. Now the assets of the central bank will be bonds. Now we're not given the value of bonds here, but we can infer the value is going to be 2000. How do we know that? We know that because remember, balance sheet must always balance. Like you said, the balance sheet must always balance, which means the left hand side total is equal to right hand side total. Total is equal to right hand side total. Right, so what we do is, so we find bonds as the 1000 reserves plus 1000 currency from left hand side. So in this way, we can construct the balance sheet of the central bank. We know its liabilities are the money it issues, the central bank money, or what we call the monetary base or high-powered money, which is made up of currency and reserves. Currency we were given directly. Reserves can be found as the reserve deposit ratio times the deposits. And as for the assets, we're not directly told what bonds are, but we can infer them from the fact that the balance sheet must always balance. Now let's do the same for the commercial banks. So let's just clear this. So now if we do the same for commercial banks, so we want to again make their balance sheet also. So we know we'll list the assets on the left hand side and the liabilities on the right hand side. Right, so we'll just do it like this. Okay, so the liabilities of a central bank are the deposits that it receives from people. And these are given to us as, okay, so wait a 1 second, this is supposed to be like this and like this. So for commercial banks, the deposits, like we said, are liabilities are the deposits it receives from people. So in this case, that's given to us as 4,000. Now its assets are the reserves. Now we know reserves are the part of deposits that it does not lend out. It either holds it uh, as cash with itself or it keeps it with the central bank. So we given reserves of 1,000. Now, its assets can also include loans that it gives to other people who need to pay it back, or again, the bonds that it holds. So, again, so this amount, loans or bonds, will be 3,000. How do we know it's 3,000? Again, we'll use the fact that the balance sheet must always balance. Must always balance. So, left hand side total has to be equal to right hand side total. So we'll find this as 4,000, which is on the left hand side, minus the 1,000 we had in reserves on the right hand side. And based on this, we can infer the value of its loans or bonds is 3,000. So in this way, we can make the balance sheet for the commercial bank also. Its liabilities are the deposits it receives from the public. Its assets include the reserves, the part of deposits that it does not lend out, but it holds in case someone comes in and takes their money, and also loans that it gives out or the bonds it holds. And you can infer the value of loans or bonds based upon the fact that the balance sheet must always balance. So if you have 4,000 on the left hand side and only 1,000 on the right hand side, this means we need another 3,000 in loans, or sorry, if we have 4,000 on the right hand side and we have 1,000 on the left hand side, then we need another 3,000 in loans or bonds on the left hand side in order to balance.